The kingdom in flames night fell like a shroud over the kingdom of Valther, and with it came fire. Enemy torches rose like malignant stars, and flames began to devour the towers and walls, like tongues hungry for destruction. The sky burned red, not from the setting sun, but from the reflection of death ravaging the city. Amid the chaos, between screams, steel, and smoke, King Eldrum bled upon his throne. His crown had rolled across the marble floor, split in two. Before him stood his killer, the traitorous General Maelric, gripping a spear still stained with royal blood. "You've doomed your own people, Maelric," whispered the king with his last breath. "The sword still fears you." But Maelric did not listen. He only smiled and turned away as the throne burst into flames. In the streets, soldiers died by the hundreds, and civilians were dragged into slavery. Yet among the rubble, one figure emerged alive. Sir Kaelen Dernhald, the last knight of the Solar Guard. Kaelen could barely stand. His armor was dented, his shield shattered, and his sword chipped. But his eyes still burned, not with fear, but with purpose. He had watched his king fall. He had sworn to protect him with his life. But not all was lost. "The sacred sword," he muttered, watching the flames claw at the sky. "If it still exists, if it truly lies hidden where the legends say, then this war is not over." With the last of his strength, Kaelen escaped the city through underground tunnels, known only to the royal guardians. Behind him lay his home in ruins, but ahead, a promise. The promise of returning with the sword that could change the fate of the kingdom. Not for glory, not for vengeance, but for those who still believed freedom could rise from the ashes. Chapter 2. The last night. The tunnels beneath Valther were as cold as the betrayal that had doomed the kingdom, carved centuries ago by dwarven allies of the crown. They twisted like forgotten roots beneath the earth, hidden even from the oldest maps. Few knew of their existence, and fewer still knew how to escape them alive. Sir Kaelen Dernhald staggered forward, his steps unsteady but resolute. Days had passed without food, and the pain of his wounds pulsed fiercely beneath his battered armor. Yet his spirit remained unbroken, sustained only by the oath still burning in his chest, to restore the kingdom's honor, or die trying. In his mind, the dying king's words echoed like funeral bells. "The sword still fears you." What had Eldrum meant? A warning? A sign that the legendary blade still existed, its power dormant, waiting for the right wielder? Kaelen did not know, but in his heart he felt the answer lay in the ruins of the ancient temple of Ordarian, where the founders of the kingdom had once sealed away the Sword of Dawn. That blade was no ordinary weapon, forged in celestial fire and quenched in royal blood. It answered only to those of pure lineage and unshadowed hearts. Its edge was light itself, and legend claimed it would blaze like the dawn when the kingdom stood on the brink of eternal night. At last, Kaelen emerged from the tunnels, miles from the fallen city. Dawn's light struck his face like a blow, and for a moment, he dared to believe the world could still be saved. Before him stretched an ashen wasteland, charred trees, empty villages, vultures circling where children had once run. "What have they done to you, Valther?" he whispered, fists clenched. He turned north. The temple lay beyond the hills of Yesgorath, a place shrouded in superstition and tales of vanished travelers. None dared cross them since the Great War of the 100 Winters. Kaelen had no choice. As he journeyed, he sheltered in abandoned barns, gnawed on roots and moss, and slept with a dagger in hand. Not from fear of bandits. They, too, had been swept away by war. Spirits of the unburied dead, whispering on moonless nights. Then, one evening, as he rested beneath a dead oak, an old woman emerged from the mist. Her skin hung like ancient parchment, her eyes two smoldering coals. At her side limped a one-legged raven, circling endlessly. "You should not be here, knight," she said, though her lips never moved. Kaelen lurched upright. Sword drawn. One who has seen kingdoms rise and kings fall, and who knows where your prize sleeps. The air grew thick. This was no mere wanderer. Something in her presence stirred the bones of the past. "You speak of the Sword of Dawn," she nodded slowly. "Only one who has tasted bitterest defeat may lift it. Only one who has lost everything may make it shine again." "Then tell me where it is," she turned. The raven croaked a word in a tongue Kaelen did not know. Then the woman pointed toward the hills. "There, where time splinters and memory bleeds. But beware, Kaelen Dernhold. Something else waits beside the blade. Something that does not forget. Nor forget." Before he could demand answers, the mist swallowed her. When Kaelen lunged forward, she was gone. Only the raven remained, watching him with a black, unblinking eye. That night, Kaelen did not sleep. Dawn found him marching toward Esgoroth, his sword at his hip, his heart aflame, and the crone's words pounding in his skull like a war drum. "Only one who has lost everything may make it shine again." Chapter 3. The Iron Phoenix Prophecy. The hills of Esgoroth rose like slumbering giants beneath a brooding sky. They were not towering mountains, but broad, undulating slopes shrouded in perpetual mist, where the echoes of the past clung to stone and whined like whispered laments. No birds sang here. No water flowed. All was silent, as if the earth itself held its breath. Sir Kaelen Dernhold did not stop. He knew this place was not merely a geographic passage, but a trial of will. Each step grew heavier, not from mud nor exhaustion, but from the visions. The hills of Esgoroth were known among the few elders who survived the war as the mirror of the damned. Those who crossed its paths were forced to face their guilt, their choices, and their dead. The first vision came at dusk. Through the mist, Kaelen saw Eldrum. His king, standing before him, drenched in blood. "Where were you when they ran me through?" The specter whispered. "Where were you when my—" Kaelen clenched his teeth. He knew it wasn't real, knew it was an illusion, a punishment. "I failed," he replied, lowering his gaze. "But I can still honor you." The specter stared a moment longer, then dissolved into a swirl of ashes. But it was not the only one. That night, the ghosts of his squadron, his Solar Guard brothers, surrounded him as he slept. Milo, the young squire who died with an arrow in his throat. Sir Arvin, whose sword was shattered at the south gate. All stared at him with the same silent question in their eyes. Why do you still live? Kaelen awoke in tears, jaw locked, hands gripping his sword's hilt. Then, atop the highest hill, he saw it. A structure of stone blackened by time. Fallen domes, shattered pillars, and above it all a symbol carved into the central arch. A bird taking flight amidst flames and chains. The Iron Phoenix, Kaelen murmured. According to ancient texts, this creature embodied the kingdom's spirit, resurrection through fire and sacrifice. It was said that before forging the Sword of Dawn, the kings made a pact with the living fire of the sky, and its essence was sealed within the blade. But what Kaelen did not expect was to find life inside. A hooded figure waited among the ruins. Hearing the knight's footsteps, it turned slowly. An old man, white-bearded, with milky eyes and a tattered robe. Around him, thousands of scrolls lay buried in dust. "I have waited 30 winters," the elder said without surprise. "I knew you would come when the throne's fire was extinguished." Kaelen, wary, raised his guard. "Who are you?" "I am Valter the Cryptic, last keeper of the prophecy, guardian of this temple, and witness to the pact the ancients made with the Phoenix." The old man limped closer, extending a trembling hand toward a weathered mural carved in stone. It depicted a faceless knight surrounded by enemies, wielding a flaming sword that split the darkness in two. The legend says, when the last tower burns and the last shield falls, the bearer shall be born of loss, and his fire will awaken with the world's weeping. Kaelen swallowed hard. "I am not worthy." "No one is. But you have suffered all, and still you walk. That is enough." The elder led him to an altar hidden behind crumbling walls. With effort, he pried open a stone slab, revealing a rune-sealed casket. Placing his palm upon the fiery sigil, flames encircled his hand, yet did not burn him. The casket opened. Inside lay a long, slender sword, elegant and deadly. Its hilt was carved with solar sigils, and its blade did not reflect light. It emitted it. Kaelen took it in both hands. For an instant he felt the sun's warmth in his chest. A voice, soft, ancient, kind, spoke in his mind. "Whom will you protect with my fire, knight?" Kaelen closed his eyes. The innocent, those who still dream of freedom. The blade erupted in white flames, and the entire temple trembled as if waking from an eternal slumber. Valter smiled. "It has begun, my son. The fire returns." But beyond the temple, hidden in shadow, something else had felt the sword's awakening, and its eyes were not human. Chapter 4. The Whispering Woods. The fire of the Sword of Dawn still burned faintly in its hilt as Sir Kaelen Dernhald descended the hills of Esgaroth. The temple lay behind him, but not the weight of revelation. That blade was no mere weapon. It was a covenant between heaven and blood, a burning oath that now pulsed in his grip. But the Phoenix awakening had not gone unnoticed. Far away in a fortress forged of black obsidian, the traitor Maelric, now self-styled Lord Regent of Vaelthur, was interrupted during a feast. A raven with silver eyes perched on his table. In its beak, it carried a single white feather wreathed in flame. Maelric paled. "The sword has awakened." Without another word, he dispatched his darkest riders. The sons of silence, tongueless, soulless assassins trained in the art of blood hunting. Their destination? The Whispering Woods, the only pass leading to the Valley of the Five Free Cities, where Kaelen could rally a rebellion if left unchecked. The forest greeted Kaelen with thick silence. The trees, towering like citadels, interlaced above him into a natural vault. Light barely filtered through. Leaves did not crunch underfoot. Everything was wrapped in an eerie sensation of being watched. Valter had warned him before they parted. The trees whisper to those who have ears, and scream at those who bear guilt. Kaelen didn't know if the voices he heard were real or echoes of his conscience. But with every step, distant whispers slithered through the branches. "You brought fire to your own. You couldn't save them. The sword will burn you if you cannot master it." He tried to ignore them, focusing on his goal, reaching on his goal. Lisdale's Refuge, a hidden village where loyalists to the crown still lived. But the voices weren't the only danger. That night, as he slept beneath the hollow roots of an ancient tree, the Sons of Silence found him. There were three. No armor, no cries, no mercy. The first fell before he could raise his dagger. The sword's fire consumed him like it recognized him as a natural enemy. But the other two were faster. Kaelen rolled across the ground, drove his blade into the earth, and fire erupted in a temporary wall. Around him the trees whispered louder. One assassin hurled a blade at the knight's heart. But then, something impossible happened. The branches moved on their own, deflecting the strike. Kaelen's eyes widened. The forest protects me? The answer came not in words, but in a burst of light. The sword blazed so fiercely that the remaining assassins fled, howling soundlessly, dissolving into the dark. Gasping, Kaelen struggled to comprehend what had witnessed. Then, a figure emerged from the shadows. Not an enemy, not a specter. A young woman, clad in robes of woven leaves, her eyes the color of moss. Her presence was calming. "I saw you in the vision," she said softly. "The forest has accepted you, Knight of Fire. I am Nira, guardian of Lysdale, and we have been waiting for you." Kaelen nodded, still wordless. "The kingdom believes itself dead," Nira continued. "But the woods have seen your flame, and they are willing to burn with you, or for you." Chapter 5. Forgotten allies. The wind howled through the heights of Lysdale, a village hidden among ancient trees whose branches wove together into natural roofs. The homes were carved from living wood, shaped without harming the trees themselves. Here, the forest and its people breathed as one, a harmony that the steel and fire of the outside world had not yet broken. Sir Kaelen Dernhald followed Nira, the guardian, his steps weary but resolute. Though the woods had shielded him, each stride made him feel further from the man he once was. The sword on his back seemed to grow heavier with every enemy soul that burned in its flames. "Who lives here?" he finally asked. Nira stopped and gestured toward the clearing. "The forgotten. Those who escaped the traitor's yoke. Those who no longer believe in kings, but perhaps still believe in you." Kaelen lifted his gaze. Before him stood over 100 souls. Old soldiers, landless youths, women with eyes hardened by exile. Some carried broken shields, others poorly healed wounds, and others only memories. At their center, a gray-haired man with a voice like gravel stepped forward. A spear rested on his back, and a scar carved a ragged path from ear to ear across his face. "You're the Fire Knight. I saw you in the smoke of my dreams," he said. "But dreams don't win wars. Why should we follow you?" Kaelen took a step forward. He did not raise his voice. He did not draw his sword. "I don't seek followers. I seek men and women who remember who they were before fear. If you're content to die in silence, stay. If you're content to live on your knees, so be it. But if even one of you still wishes to see dawn break over a free kingdom, then we fight together." Silence. Then from the back, "My father died for the king. I'll fight." Another, "They burned my village for refusing to swear loyalty to Maelric." And another, "My son was taken to Nordhal's labor camps. I want him free." The scarred man nodded. "We may not believe in kings, but we believe in fire, and you carry a very old one." That same day, Lysdale began to awaken. Kaelen wasted no time. He gathered those who could fight, trained those who couldn't. Shields were forged from hardened bark, swords from carved stone, spears tipped with bone. Every tool of the forest became a weapon, but he knew an army of exiles wasn't enough. He needed more. So, with Nira and the scarred veteran, Jorvan, he charted a course to 3 potential allies: the Ash Forgers, a clan of nomadic smiths, dwelling on the slopes of Mount Ulcar. They crafted weapons that could shear through steel, but they had taken no side since Valther's fall. The Sisters of the Silent Lake, an order of warrior women sworn to guard the secrets of ancient magic. Their arrows never missed, it was said, and their eyes could pierce a man's heart. The Broken Raven clan, once mercenaries, now raiders. Unruly and cruel, but effective. If swayed, they could strike the regime's border outposts like a hammer to an anvil. Kaelen divided his forces. He would seek the Sisters of the Silent Lake, accompanied by Naira. Jorvin would treat with the Ashforgers, and a third group, led by a fiery youth named Terran, would parley with the Broken Ravens. Before departing, Naira approached Kaelen with a cloak woven of leaves and ash. "This will shield you from the cold, but not from pain. Only faith can do that." Kaelen turned, casting one last look over the faces of Listdale, and nodded. "We'll return with allies, and with fire," but neither he nor Nira knew that a new threat already moved across the skies. Not riders, not spies, but something older. The sky stalkers. Giant black birds bred by fallen sorcerers, capable of tracking the scent of blood tainted by a sacred fire. And now, that fire belonged to him. Chapter 6. The Blood Map. The path to the Silent Lake was marked on no map. Only the long-extinct elves and the ancient guardians of magic knew its trails. Kaelen and Nira trekked through fog-choked ravines, crossed bridges rotted by time, and descended into valleys where the trees bore no leaves and cast no shadows. "How much farther?" Kaelen asked. "When the water reflects you but shows no face," Nira replied, "you will be close." Kaelen assumed it was another of her cryptic answers, but he didn't press. The forest seemed to listen to every word. 3 days later, in a hollow of absolute silence, they found the first warning. A bloodless corpse. It hung upside down, veins slit open. Yet not a single drop stained the ground. Its skin was carved with marks like runes. Across its back, deeply gouged, was a spiral symbol studded with eyes. "This was no man's work," Naira whispered, her face pale. "This is the doing of the living map." Kaelen crouched beside the body. The marks seemed to shift faintly, as if breathing, as if the skin itself remembered. "What is the living map?" Naira swallowed. "A forbidden relic. A cursed body turned into cartography. Using blood, magic, and betrayal. Some say it walks. Others claim it appears when history demands to be told. If it's truly near, it could show us the secret path to the heart of Maelric's Black Fortress." Kaelen hesitated. "But if it was real, it could spare them a long, bloody war." That night, they camped by the lake. The air hung still, thick as before a storm. Then, in the darkness, something emerged from the water. A faceless man, wrapped in bandages, dragging a staff carved with closed eyes. He did not speak, did not breathe. He only pointed at the corpse. The marks on the skin began to glow crimson. Kaelen stepped back, but Naira seized his hand. Its map moved toward their fire and, without a word, knelt. It drew an obsidian knife from its own leg and began to carve into its chest. Symbols, coordinates, letters from a lost language of the first ones. Kaelen wanted to look away but couldn't, because amid the blood and flesh a drawing took shape. The hidden layout of the obsidian fortress, Maelric's stronghold, secret tunnels, ancient cisterns, doors forgotten by time. With this, we can get inside. "We can take the tower," Kaelen said. But then the map lifted its bandaged face and spoke in a voice of many. "Every stroke is a life you've already lost. Every line. A soul you won't save. Walk this path, and there will be no victory without sacrifice." Then it vanished. No trace remained, only the map etched into the earth. Kaelen fell to his knees. Naira knelt beside him. "Do we follow it?" "We follow it," Kaelen said. "But not for vengeance. For an end to all this." And as the sun rose, the sky stalkers, Maelric's winged hunters, soared across the sky, turning toward Listdale. The war would wait no longer. Chapter 7. The Abyss Fortress. The skies burned purple as Sir Kaelen Dernhald and Nyra returned to Listdale. But it was not the welcome they had hoped for. From a distance, the forest reeked of smoke. Not the smoke of friendly fires, but of devastation. When they reached the village, they found fallen trees, homes torn open by claws, and blood staining the bark. The Sky Stalkers had arrived before them. "Jorvin," Kaelen shouted, desperate. From a shelter hidden beneath the roots of an oak, Jorvin emerged, limping, one arm in a sling. "They took the children, and Terran," he said through gritted teeth. "They want you to follow. It was a trap." Kaelen clenched his fists. For a moment, the sword of dawn hummed against his back. Not in fury, in grief. Where? South, to the pits of the abyss beneath the old fortress. They're calling you. Like bait. Nyra spoke then. "We can't split our forces. We must strike the fortress from within, as the blood map showed us. And the prisoners, we'll free them from the inside," Jorvin said. Terran left a message before he was taken. He gave us the sigils of the Broken Raven clan, and said some have joined our cause. We have allies, but we must move now. Kaelen nodded. The war would wait no longer. 2. The march to the fortress under a starless sky. Over 300 souls marched with Kaelen. Old soldiers, smiths from the Ashforders, huntresses from the Sisters of the Silent Lake, even mercenaries from the Broken Raven clan, armed to the teeth and singing funeral dirges. But Kaelen knew not all were there out of loyalty. Someone among them had already betrayed him. The blood map had revealed a hidden entrance, an ancient cistern leading into the obsidian fortress inner tunnels, called by the ancients the Abyss Fortress, for its foundations plunged beyond stone. Into what none dared name? On the night before the assault, Kaelen received an unexpected visitor. A hooded figure entered his tent unannounced. "I knew you'd come," he said, gripping his sword. The figure lowered its hood. It was Terran. "How?" "They want you to walk into their trap. Maelric knows the fire belongs to you now, and he means to take it from you before all eyes." Kaelen stepped back. "What did you do?" Terran fell to his knees. "I was weak. I told them your approach, but I didn't reveal the hidden tunnel or the map. Why betray us?" "They promised me my mother alive again, but it was a lie. They killed her years ago." Kaelen looked at Terran and for a moment saw his own past, his own doubts. "Get up. You'll fight with us, but if you raise a weapon against me again, you'll burn like the rest." Terran nodded dry-eyed. The assault at dawn, the plan began. The Broken Ravens attacked the main gate, creating a diversion. Meanwhile, Kaelen, Nyra, Jorvin, and a small elite force descended through the hidden cistern. The depths were alive with sounds not of this world. Dragging chains, backward voices, muffled laughter. The walls themselves seemed to pulse. The sword of dawn glowed faintly, as if afraid of the place. And for the first time, Kaelen hesitated. In the final passage, they found the children. Caged in hanging prisons, they wept silently, as if fear had already drained their tears. "Jorvin, disable the traps. Nyra, guard the flank. Terran, free those cages," Kaelen ordered. But before they could react, the shadow fell. A giant figure dropped from above. Not Maelric, not human. His new creation, the harbinger of darkness, a beast forged from the souls of fallen soldiers, its armor fused from skulls, its eyes unblinking. Kaelen knew this fight was not physical. It was fire against void, and the sword. Now we'll see if Dawn's fire can light the abyss. Kaelen roared, raising the blade to the sky. Flames erupted. The beast howled. The final battle had begun. Chapter 8. The awakening of the sacred blade fire clashed against shadow. Kaelen was thrown against a stone wall, the impact driving the breath from his lungs. The sword of dawn fell from his grasp, its light dimming for a moment, as if it had lost the will to fight. Before him, the harbinger of darkness advanced, dragging a chain forged from living thorns. Its body was an amalgamation of trapped souls, screaming from every crevice of its blackened armor. It had no face, only a mouthless skull veined with burning cracks. Kaelen tried to rise, but his body refused to obey. "Nah, not yet," he gasped. And then he heard her. A voice, soft, feminine, ancient, not from the world around him, but from the very core of his chest. "Why do you fight, Kaelen Dernhold? For your dead king? For vengeance? For redemption?" He closed his eyes. Everything stopped. The scene shifted. Suddenly he stood in a field bathed in dawn's light. Before him floated a woman with golden eyes and hair like white flame. A burning crystal pulsed in her chest. She was the soul of the Sword of Dawn. "You?" he whispered. "I am the sealed fire, the meaning within your blade. But I do not answer to just anyone. I will only rise for one willing to sacrifice everything, even for their enemies." "Then you don't know me," he said, breathing raggedly. "I didn't come for glory. I came because there's no one else left." She studied him in silence. "Would you give your life so others may live free?" "Yes. And your soul?" "That too, even if it means your name will be forgotten forever." Kaelen hesitated, then nodded. Even then, she smiled and vanished. "Oh," the true fire. Kaelen's body jolted with a cry. The Sword of Dawn flew from the ground back into his hand, as though summoned by an oath fulfilled. But this time, it did not burn with golden fire. It blazed with pure white light, the fire of all who had fallen, the fire of souls who had still believed in tomorrow. As he swung it, the flames did not burn. They purified. The harbinger lashed out with its chain, but Kaelen severed it with a single stroke. The souls bound within the beast began to peel away like autumn leaves, one by one, screaming in pain, and then, at last, in peace. "For Velthur, for the forgotten!" Kaelen roared. A final cut, a detonation of light, then... silence. The beast fell, and with it, the darkness shrouding the tunnels shattered. The price, but the cost, was immediate. The white light did not fade from the blade. It climbed up Kaelen's arm. His skin burned. His body fractured from within. The sword had awakened, and now demanded a piece of his soul to remain alive. Nyra sprinted toward him, the freed children at her heels. "Kaelen, no!" "Drop the sword." But he only smiled through tears. "I can't. It's a part of me now, and I'm part of it. Then, you'll die. Not today. But a piece of me will stay here, to ensure no tyranny ever grows in the dark again." Kaelen lifted his gaze. Beyond the crumbling fortress, he saw its highest tower. Maelric was still there. The battle wasn't over, but the fire was no longer his alone. It belonged to everyone. Chapter 9. The Battle of the Red Moon. The white light still burned along the edge of the Sword of Dawn. But Kaelen knew this fire would not last forever. With every passing second, a piece of his soul fused with the blade, making it stronger, yet bringing him closer to his end. "The fortress is breached," said Jorvin, spear in hand. "The sky, stalkers have fled. The darkness is breaking." "It's not the darkness we should fear," Kaelen replied. It's what lives inside it. High atop the mountain, the obsidian fortress burned with pockets of battle. The broken ravens had shattered the gates. The sisters of the silent lake rained enchanted arrows from the towers, and the ash forgers barricaded the underground tunnels. But the shadowed throne remained, the hall where Maelric, the traitor, waited, and the moon had begun to bleed red. The ritual in the fortress' highest chamber, Maelric stood with arms outstretched over a circle of ash and blood. Around him, 7 human hearts beat without bodies, suspended by dark chains. Behind him loomed a throne of twisted bones. He comes. The veil will tear, he whispered. At the ritual's center, a black sphere slowly rotated. The relic of Inaroth, a shard of primordial darkness, sealed away in the age before me. Even the cruelest kings had forbidden its use. Yet now, Maelric had unearthed it. With this, not even the light of gods can stop me. And then, as the moon reached its zenith, the sky roared like a wounded beast. The red moon was born. Through the ascent, Kaelen cut through the fortress halls like living fire. Every enemy in his path was purified. The sword did not merely strike, it judged. Some foes collapsed without a visible wound, as if the weight of their sins had crushed. Nyra fought at his side, hurling living roots to ensnare traitorous soldiers. Jorvan led the charge through the corridors, and Terran, redeemed, guarded the wounded. But Kaelen did not speak. He only walked toward the throne. And when he pushed open the stone doors of the royal chamber, he saw him. Maelric, clad in living armor, eyes burning like coals, and behind him, the darkness itself taking shape. You're too late, Kaelen. The world has already been claimed. No, the knight replied. Dawn still carries fire. Light against the abyss, the battle transcended flesh. Their swords clashed, but so did their ideals, memories, regrets. Maelric hurled living shadows shaped like the dead Kaelen had failed to save. And Kaelen met them with his own pain, forged into flame. As they fought, the relic of Inaroth began to crack, and an ancient voice slithered forth. Return the fire to me, and I will return all you have lost. Kaelen hesitated. For an instant, he saw them. His fallen king, his mother, his Solar Guard brothers, alive, smiling. But then he saw Nyra fighting, the rescued children. The people who still hoped. I don't want the past. He roared, I want a future. And with that, he plunged the Sword of Dawn into the relic. The ritual's end, the explosion was soundless. A white light engulfed the fortress. The shadows were scoured away. Maelric screamed as his armor shattered, his body dissolving into ash, his soul consumed by the sword's fire. The red moon snuffed out. The sky darkened once more, and Kaelen fell to his knees. It's done, he whispered. Nyra rushed to him, cradling him in her arms. Chapter 10. The legacy of Dawn. 3 seasons had passed since the fall of the Abyss Fortress. The lands of Vael'thur, once scorched under Fear's yoke, began to bloom again. Cities raised their gates. Abandoned villages found their voices. Songs returned to the squares, and swords were laid to rest. Yet at the heart of it all, atop the kingdom's highest peak, the Sword of Dawn remained embedded in black stone, right where Kaelen had sealed away the darkness. No one could move it. No one dared, because all knew the sword still had an owner. She. A kingdom without a king at the first council of rebuilding. The leaders of the clans, the mercenaries, the sisters of the Silent Lake, the ash forgers, and the freed towns gathered in the hall that once belonged to Maelric. Many expected to crown one of their own, but Nyra, standing before them, raised her voice. Kaelen did not fight to replace one tyranny with another. He fought to return power to the people. We don't need a throne. We need balance. The words divided the room. Then Jorvan, the scarred veteran, rose and declared, If Dawn's fire was shared, let rule be shared too. Thus was born the Pact of Flames, a council of every region, every race, every voice. No crown, no scepter, only duty. Return to Lysdale Nyra, return to the woods with the rescued children. Wounded roots regrew, green leaves veiled the scars of fire, and songs once more echoed between the trees. Every year on the day Maelric fell, they lit a white fire at the forest's heart, not to honor a hero, but to remind the world that light does not die. It only changes hands. One evening, as Nyra walked the lakeshore, a white butterfly alighted on her shoulder. And then, a whisper, soft as the wind. "I am still here." She smiled. She said nothing. To last flame deep in the mountains, beyond where paths end, an old man trudged through snow and stone. His face was hooded, his body bent by time. He stopped before a fissure glowing faintly, like the breath of a sleeping dragon. Reaching inside, he drew out a white spark. He studied it. "Not my time yet," he murmured. Then in a voice only the wind heard, he added, "But another darkness will come. And when the world forgets, it will remember the fire." Final epilogue. The fire never dies. 100 years later, bards still sang of Kaelen Dernhald, the knight who sought no glory, who refused a throne, and who gave his soul for a kingdom that had forgotten how to dream. Children in Lysdale carved wooden swords and pretended to be him. Smiths forged blades with solar sigils, and mothers told stories by the light of a single white candle. And whenever the world seemed to darken again, a white flame would rise in some forgotten corner, as a warning or a promise. The end, the last sword of the fallen kingdom, a tale of fire, loss, and redemption.